So this week is more of a just focus on your paper week. We don't have too much. There's a reason I just have the prompt um, on week 7, and so as you saw, and the one thing I think you'll notice is that the link to turn in the rough drafts are gone, and the link to turn in the final drafts are on. Um, and if any of you haven't had the opportunity yet, I would really encourage you to, and this goes especially for those who are watching this on YouTube later, I would really encourage you to watch the live edit. Freddie was nice enough to let me post a live edit of me going over his paper. And I think that would be really helpful and instructive to you all to kind of check that out. If you have an opportunity to, I think it'll be really helpful. So with that on top of the example papers, I think one of the few things that I'll probably just get off of my chest about what I saw in the rough drafts, for the most part, everything was pretty cool. Everybody stuck pretty well. The only thing that I would really do is I would really comment on is just hey, make sure you're going through that writing checklist before you turn in your paper, that you're not using first person, you're not for my paper or I chose this or I think or I believe, get rid of all of that. So, and I don't think this really goes for particularly the people in the room at the moment, but I think it is applicable towards people who may be watching this on YouTube later on this afternoon. Because I think there's a definite need to just you know cross your T's and dot your I's and just making sure that things are done properly. Double check the the citation formats. A lot of people are putting like um, periods out, before the quotation mark, and then putting the parenthetical citation at the end, and then putting another period. And you don't need that you don't need that period if before the quotation mark if you're going to add a parenthetical at the end. The other thing that I would mention is just make sure that your introductions are relatively short. They shouldn't be more like if they're going more than half the page, it's already too long. And just make sure that you are deliberately stating that like the purpose of this paper is to analyze and compare and contrast um, 3 articles that are looking and observe their differences, their similarities and differences, or something to that effect. But it should be that, hey, this is what the paper is about. This is what it's going to cover. And this is the objective of the paper. And then that's it. You don't need to explain yourself in full in the introduction. That's the whole point of the introduction, is to just, give us an appetizer of what you're going to talk about. You have the whole paper to explain yourself. Um, the last thing that I would mention is just make sure that comparisons are being brought in as much as you can as you're discussing the 3 articles. If you notice in the live edit that I did with Freddie's, is he was just about there, but there was just a couple of sentences that needed to be that needed to just have a little extra added in order to just make sure that you're keeping up with the comparisons. And so that's why I would encourage you to watch that live edit, because I go over a lot of that without me just telling you on here. You can actually see an example, and I'm editing it live on my iPad, and you can see all of that at once. So that's about what I have in terms of what I'm thinking about. I really just kind of want to open the floor for anybody to have questions about their papers, because we'll really kind of get into the next phase. Starting at the end of the week, I'll start posting up some stuff that you can get a kind of a leg on, because we're not going to have any major paper due or anything like that. We're going to start talking about research for journal articles next week. And so that'll be and so it's going to kind of start the process all over again of what we did with the hot newspaper. So I'm just going to open up the floor for any questions you have about the hot newspaper, or any specifics that you might have.
I mean, it's not really so a question, but like just trying to piggyback up what you said about the live video you posted on the Blackboard. It was like a light bulb moment, because instead of like restarting the whole paper, I was like, oh yeah, I just need to change a few sentences here and there of like, well, in like Vox, Reuters does this and stuff like that. So it really
Mhm.
saved me a lot. It took, I mean, it didn't save me time because it was like a thought process. It took me like a couple hours to include and look at the differences, but it definitely saved my paper. So if anyone's like thinking about it, yeah, definitely watch it.
Yeah, well, and with your paper, most everything was already there. It was just a matter, the content was there. It was just a matter of just, how the content was presented. And that sometimes that's harder. And it's a learned skill. I mean, that's why we're going through it like this, and we're kind of breaking things down, and you're getting feedback and things like that, and we're having discussions about it. So the more that you ask me questions, the more I can kind of elucidate that. But uh let me know if any of you have any. How are you guys feeling? I mean, if you guys are feeling good, I mean, that's about all I have for today, because I don't want to overwhelm you, because I already know it's midterms coming up. And I know that there are other projects going on in other classes, and I deliberately try to not overwhelm you, particularly when you have your first big paper. I want you to focus on the writing process. And so, and to focus on the issues that you may or may not need, and that if you can go back to other, I don't want to overburden you with adding more material to start absorbing if you need to go back to the other lectures in order to kind of refine your hot newspaper. And so that's why we're kind of taking it a little easy in terms of new content this year, or this week. But don't worry, we will be starting in full earnest. That's why there's no journal this week, or upcoming week, because like your last journal was, I think, this Monday, or yesterday. And so the one thing that I will let you know is there should be a grade update coming within the next few days. So you should start seeing on Blackboard just kind of like a full update of everything where we're at up to this point in terms of grades. That way, just everything's all put together. I have some stuff that's recorded on Blackboard. I have some stuff that's recorded on um, my actual grade book on my computer. So I'm just going to make sure that both of those are merged so everybody can kind of just see where they're at.
I had a quick concern about, I know you posted like on week 7 and since week 5 about like, oh, like make sure you to answer these 8 questions.
Mhm.
What if you don't specifically address those like 8 questions? I know one was about language and or like just for instance, like I know some articles don't include like photos or anything like that or videos. Like, is it okay if you don't answer all 8 or
The thing that I will always tell people is, if you have the answer to answer a question also includes no. Like, do they have inflammatory language? No. Move on. So that's a way of answering the question. The articles did not seem to have much in the way of kind of inflammatory language, or did not use photos, or did not do something like that. You don't ignore it, but you just give a short answer saying no, that this isn't applicable.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So yeah, a totally appropriate answer to a question is no, because these are kind of blanket questions, and they're not specifically tailored to what you've selected. So just like any kind of lab, the answer could easily be no, and it would be totally legitimate. You could conceivably have a paper where everything was similar and everything got covered correctly, and that would be totally fine. But with that, I guess we'll go ahead, and this will be a short session, so this shouldn't take too long to post onto YouTube. But I would encourage you, if you have not seen the video of the live edit, please do so. Other than that, I'll be opening up my doors for office hours from 5 to 6 if anybody needs to see me.